The fires on Kessler 9 burned low, casting the ruins in shades of rust and shadow. Smoke drifted through skeletal buildings like ghosts searching for the living. Somewhere in the distance, metal groaned as a support beam finally surrendered to gravity. The sound echoed across the valley, lonely and final. Lieutenant Cassandra Brennan moved through the wreckage with practiced caution. Her boots crunched on broken glass. Her rifle hung loose at her side barrel, still warm from the firefight that had ended hours ago. Or maybe days. Time felt elastic after survival became the only goal that mattered. She was 28 years old, too young to feel this tired, too experienced to pretend otherwise. The dropship had carved a trench through the eastern district when it fell. Twisted metal jutted from the ground at impossible angles, blackened and still radiating heat. Cass approached slowly, scanning for movement. Her helmet display flickered with thermal signatures, all of them cooling rapidly. Bodies, debris, nothing alive. Then she saw him. The alien lay against what remained of the ship's hull, one arm twisted beneath him, the other pressed against his side where dark silver blood seeped between his fingers. He was tall, even collapsed. His skin carried the pale blue luminescence of the Aurelian species, marked by faint glowing lines that pulsed weakly beneath the surface, dying stars under foreign skin. Cass stopped 3 meters away. Her finger moved to the rifle's trigger guard. Not quite resting on the trigger, not quite pulling away. The alien's head turned slowly. Golden eyes found hers, wide, aware, afraid. For a long moment, neither moved. Then he closed his eyes, jaw tight, breath shallow, waiting for the end. That was what finally broke through the numbness Cass had wrapped around herself like armor. Not his injury, not his obvious helplessness, but that small gesture of absolute surrender. The acceptance that violence was coming because violence was all humans ever brought. She lowered her rifle. Her father's voice echoed in memory, warm, steady, the way it had been before Montana 7 taught her what finality sounded like. Don't become the monster they think we are. Cass moved forward, boots scraping against debris. The alien's eyes snapped open. Confusion replaced fear. She reached up and released the seal on her helmet. The hiss of escaping pressure cut through the quiet. Cold air hit her face sharp with the taste of ash and ozone. She pulled the helmet free. Sweat-dampened hair fell across her forehead. Brown eyes met gold. "I'm not going to kill you," she said. The universal translator embedded in his collar flickered, processing, then hummed softly with comprehension. He stared at her. Disbelief warred with pain across features that were almost human. Almost, but not quite. The proportions were too precise. The symmetry too perfect. Like someone had calculated beauty rather than grown into it. "You speak," he whispered. The translator rendered his voice flat, stripped of accent or emotion. "Yeah." Cass knelt beside him, close enough now to see the insignia etched into his armor. 3 intersecting lines over a star cluster. Strategic command. High level. "We do that sometimes." She pulled her field med kit from her belt. His eyes tracked the movement. Muscles tensed despite the obvious agony it caused. "Easy," she said quietly. "I'm a medic. This is what we do." "You are human." The statement carried the weight of condemnation, of warning, of certainty about what came next. Cass met his gaze. "I am, and you're bleeding out. So unless you want to die here alone, you're going to let me help you." She pressed the injector against his neck. He flinched but didn't pull away. Couldn't, probably. The nano foam hissed as it deployed, sealing torn tissue from the inside out. His bioluminescent marking steadied slightly. Breathing eased. He watched her work with the intensity of someone trying to solve an equation that defied all known variables. "Why bon?" The single word carried centuries of fear. Cass didn't answer immediately. She finished sealing the worst of his wounds, then sat back on her heels. Her hands were steady. They'd been steady through worse. "My father taught me something," she said finally. "Before he died, he said we're better than fear, better than hate, better than what the galaxy thinks we are." She looked at the alien directly. "Let's find out if he was right." Silence stretched between them. The fires crackled. Metal groaned. Somewhere overhead, a ship passed too high to see engines whispering across the sky. "My name is Cassandra," she said. "Cass Mosley. You, Another pause. Then carefully Vreth, Commander Vreth Kalor. Commander. Mishna nodded slowly. Her eyes dropped to his insignia again. Recognition sparked. Cold. Certain. She'd seen that symbol before. In mission briefings, in casualty reports, in the wreckage of everything she'd lost. Her jaw tightened. For a moment, something dangerous flickered behind her eyes. Vreth saw it. His already pale skin went paler. You know. Yeah, Cass said quietly. I know. 6 months ago, Montana 7, a colony world on the edge of human space where wheat grew golden under an amber sun and children played in streets that had never known war. Cass had been on leave, home for the first time in 2 years. Her mother had made dinner. Her little brother had grown 4 inches. Everything was normal, safe, temporary. The attack came at dawn. Aurelian ships dropped from fold space with precision that spoke of perfect planning, perfect calculation, perfect knowledge of when the colony would be most vulnerable. They struck the communication arrays first, then the spaceport, then the evacuation centers where families gathered when the sirens finally screamed their warning. Cass's father, Colonel Marcus Brennan, had been leading the civilian evacuation. She'd watched from the medical bay where she'd been treating the first wave of injured, watched as he organized the retreat, watched as he stayed behind to cover the transports, watched as the building collapsed on top of him when the orbital strike hit. She'd run toward the rubble. Someone had grabbed her, held her back, screaming, fighting, useless. The arms that held her belonged to Master Sergeant Declan Thorne, her father's best friend, 58 years old with silver hair and granite features, eyes that had seen too much to pretend comfort existed in moments like these. He's gone, Cass, Declan had said, voice rough, final. Don't make his sacrifice meaningless. He'd pulled her onto the last transport, held her while she broke, promised her something she barely remembered through the shock. I'll watch over you. I swear it. The transport had lifted through smoke and fire. Below Montana, 7 burned. Above were Aurelian ships regrouped for another strike. Efficient, methodical, perfect. 2,347 people died that day. Cass's mother and brother made it out. Barely. They lived in the core now, trying to rebuild lives around a hole shaped like husband and father. Cass had joined the Marines a week after the funeral. Now kneeling in the ruins of Kessler 9, she looked at the alien commander, whose insignia marked him as part of the Strategic Planning Corps. The same corps that had calculated Montana 7 down to the last casualty projection. You planned it, she said. Not a question. Vreth didn't look away. Yes. My father died in that attack. I know. His golden eyes held steady. Strategic necessity, maximum disruption with acceptable collateral damage. The calculations were precise. Calculations. Cass's voice went flat. My family was a calculation. Your colony was a military staging ground, Vreth said quietly. We removed a strategic asset. We grew wheat and processed military-grade fuel compounds and trained reconnaissance units, and my brother was 7 years old. That stopped him. His mouth closed. The bioluminescent lines across his skin pulsed once rapid, something that might have been shame in a species Cass barely understood. Acceptable collateral, he said again. Softer this time. Less certain. Cass stood. Her hand moved to her sidearm, not drawing it, just resting there, feeling the weight, the possibility. Vreth watched her, didn't close his eyes this time, didn't look away, just waited. The moment stretched, taut, fragile. Then Cass's hand fell away from the weapon. My father told me something else, she said. He said revenge and justice aren't the same thing. That killing someone who's already beaten doesn't make you strong. It makes you exactly what they think you are. She looked down at Vreth, at the alien who had calculated her family into acceptable losses, who now bled silver onto alien soil and waited for mercy he didn't expect. So here's what's going to happen, Cass said. I'm going to get you somewhere safe. I'm going to make sure you survive. Not because you deserve it, but because my father deserved a daughter who's better than the war that killed him. Vreth stared at her. I do not understand humans. Good, Cass said. Then you're starting to learn. She helped him to his feet. He was heavy, lean muscle and alien physiology, that didn't quite map to human proportions. He leaned against her silver blood, staining her armor. Together they moved through the ruins. Behind them, something on the dropship began to beep. Soft, regular, insistent. Vreth stiffened. No. What is that? Cass asked. Emergency beacon. His voice went tight. Command protocol. Activates automatically when life signs drop below critical threshold. Cass felt ice slide down her spine. Meaning. Meaning my fleet knows exactly where I am and that I am alive. He met her eyes. They will come, in 8 hours, perhaps less, a full tactical retrieval team. And when they get here, they will find a human with their wounded commander. Vreth's expression was grim. You will be considered either an intelligence asset or a threat, likely both. Cass processed that. 8 hours, not long, not nearly long enough. Then we'd better get moving, she said. They made it to what had been an administrative building before Vreth's strength gave out. 3 floors partially collapsed, but the lower level was intact. Cass cleared it room by room, rifle up movements automatic. Empty. Safe enough. She settled Vreth in what had once been a conference room. The windows were blown out, but the walls held. She propped him against the far wall where he could see the entrance. Basic tactics. Never trap an injured asset in a corner without sightlines. Stay here, she said. I'm going to secure the perimeter. You intend to defend this position? Vreth asked. I intend to give us options. She moved through the building, cataloging resources. Collapsed sections blocked some approaches. Debris fields created natural choke points. The building itself sat on elevated ground, offering tactical advantage. Not perfect, but workable. In what had been a storage room, she found salvaged equipment. Human and alien both scavenged during the battle. Power cells, weapon components, communication gear. The remains of both sides scattered together in the aftermath of violence. Cass activated her long-range comm unit. Static hissed. She adjusted the frequency, searching for the encrypted military channel. More static, then finally a voice. Repeat if anyone is receiving this transmission. Thorn actual, this is Brennan. Do you copy? A pause, then Cass Jesus, we thought you were dead. Your beacon went dark during the artillery strike. Master Sergeant Declan Thorne's voice carried the rough warmth of gravel smoothed by running water. Steady, present. The closest thing Cass had to family since her father died. Got knocked around, Cass said. Lost the beacon. I'm intact. Your position, Grid 47 Delta, old admin complex. Declan, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I found an Aurelian commander, strategic core. He was injured. I treated him. Silence, long enough that Cass checked the connection. You did what? Declan's voice was carefully controlled. He was dying. I'm a medic. I couldn't. Cass, a breath. Kid, do you know what you've done? I saved someone who needed saving. You saved an enemy officer, high-value target. The kind of target that shifts entire strategic calculations. Another pause. Does he know who you are? He knows I'm human. He knows my father died at Montana 7. Montana 7. Declan's voice went soft, dangerous. Cass was he. He planned it. Strategic Planning Corps. He told me himself. The silence that followed was profound. And you didn't kill him, Declan said finally. No. Your father's daughter. Something that might have been pride, might have been fear. What's your situation? His emergency beacon activated, or Aurelian fleet inbound. 8 hours, maybe less. Then you need to move. Now, leave him and extract before. I can't do that. Cass, Dad told me not to become what they think we are. You were there, you heard him. She kept her voice steady. If I walk away now, what was it all for? Declan was quiet for a long moment. She could almost see him standing somewhere safe and distant, hand running through silver hair, the way it always did when he processed something difficult. Your father, he said quietly, was the best man I ever knew. He also got himself killed trying to save people who were already doomed. A breath. I won't lose you the same way. You taught me to finish what I start. I also taught you to recognize losing battles. This isn't a battle, not yet. Cass looked back toward the conference room where Vreth waited. Declan, 8 hours. What if I use it? What if I make it mean something? What are you thinking? I don't know yet, but you always said the best strategy is the one the enemy doesn't expect. She could hear the conflict in his silence. The mentor who wanted to protect her. The soldier who recognized opportunity. The friend who'd promised a dead man to watch over his daughter. All right, Declan said finally. Talk it through. What do you have? A wounded Aurelian commander who just realized humans aren't what he calculated. A tactical position with limited defensibility. In 8 hours before his people arrive, expecting to find him dead or captured. And maybe that's enough to shift the narrative. Cass felt something solidify in her chest. Purpose, direction. They think we're savages, brutal, uncontrollable. What if we show them something different? You want to turn a rescue operation into a statement. I want to turn it into a choice, their choice. Do they come in shooting or do they come in talking? Declan was quiet, processing. That's bold, dangerous, probably going to get you killed. Probably, I see. Your father would have done the same thing. A breath, which is why I'm going to help you. But Cass, listen to me carefully. You're playing a game where the stakes are your life, their rules, their territory. If this goes wrong, then it goes wrong. But if it goes right, then you just change the war. She could hear the shift in his voice, the soldier coming forward. All right, first priority, fortify your position. Second, establish communication protocols. Third, figure out what you're going to say when they arrive. I'm working on that part. Work faster. And Cass, your father taught you mercy. Let me teach you leverage. Mercy without strength is just surrender. You need both. Understood. I'll monitor the channel. You need anything, I'm here. And Cass, a pause. He'd be proud of you, even if this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Thanks, Declan. Don't thank me yet. We haven't gotten you killed yet. The channel went quiet. Cass sat in the ruins surrounded by the debris of battle and began to plan. She spent the next hour building, not fortifications, not weapons, something else. Using salvaged power cells and communication arrays, she constructed a broadcasting system. Human technology interfaced with Aurelian components. Crude, functional, capable of reaching far beyond this ruined world. When she returned to the conference room, Vreth watched her approach with wary curiosity. What are you doing? He asked. Shifting the story, Cass said. She set up the equipment, activated the power feed, calibrated the signal strength. Vreth studied the configuration and she saw the moment comprehension hit. That is a wideband transmitter, he said slowly. Yeah, capable of reaching multiple systems simultaneously. That's the idea. You intend to broadcast. To my fleet. To everyone. Cass met his eyes. Your people are coming expecting to find you dead or captured by savages. I'm going to show them something they don't expect. The truth. What truth? That humans don't just destroy. We also choose. We build. We save. She adjusted the frequency calibration. And that maybe you've been calculating the wrong variables this entire time. Vreth was silent. Then quietly, they will not believe you. Maybe not, but they'll have to see it. Cass activated the preliminary connection protocols, and seeing is the first step toward understanding. You are taking an extraordinary risk. So did you when you planned Montana 7. Difference is I'm betting on connection instead of destruction. She looked at him. Think it'll work. Vreth studied her. This young human woman with dirt on her face and determination in her eyes, who had chosen mercy when revenge would have been easier, who now gambled everything on the possibility of understanding. I do not know, he said honestly, but I begin to suspect humans are far more dangerous than we calculated. Why's that? Because weapons we understand, mercy we do not. An hour later, proximity sensors chimed. Cass checked the display and felt her stomach drop. What is it? Vreth asked. Company. Not your people, not yet. She zoomed the scanner. Mercenary signatures, 3 ships, medium range. Vreth went very still. They detected the beacon and smelled opportunity. Cass ran calculations. They'll want you alive. Ransom value, or me. Intelligence asset. Can your defenses hold Against 3 ships. Cass shook her head. I've got power for 1 defensive pulse. Maybe. That's it. Then we cannot survive this. Not separately. Cass turned to face him. But together. I do not understand. Your command codes. Can you access your fleet's communication network? Yes, but. And they'd respond to a distress call from you. Vreth's eyes widened. You want to call my fleet, while mercenaries approach, exposing both our positions. I want to force a choice. Your people arrive to find mercenaries attacking one of their own, with a human defending him. Cass met his gaze. Makes it real clear which side is which. That is insane. That's the point. Calculated moves got us here. Let's try something unpredictable. Outside engines roared closer. The mercenary fleet was descending. Vreth looked at Cass, at this human who should have killed him, who instead saved him, who now proposed risking everything on the hope that understanding could be built from chaos. He made a choice. Very well, he said, my codes are yours. They activated the broadcast together. Human hands and Aurelian codes interfacing technology never meant to cooperate. The signal burst outward, cutting through secure channels, bypassing encryption, reaching everywhere. The mercenary fleet broadcast their demand across open channels. Attention ground position, surrender the Aurelian commander and the human combatant within 30 minutes, or we level the entire region. Cass looked at Vreth. Now or never. She activated the camera, positioned herself in frame. Vreth beside her, clearly injured, clearly alive. This is Lieutenant Cassandra Brennan, Human Marine Corps, she said. Her voice carried the steady calm of someone who had made peace with risk. The alien beside me is Commander Vreth Kalor. He led the strike that killed my father 6 months ago. I saved his life today anyway. She paused. Let that sink in. If you want to understand humanity, start here. We don't just calculate outcomes, we choose them. And today I chose mercy over vengeance, understanding over hate, the possibility of peace over the certainty of war. Behind her, systems hummed. The broadcast reached Aurelian fleet channels, neutral observers, independent systems, everyone watching this forgotten corner of space where something unprecedented was happening. To the mercenaries threatening us, Cass continued, know this, you're about to force a choice, and the galaxy is watching what we choose. The transmission spread across systems, across species, a human woman standing beside an alien commander. Not captor and prisoner, not enemy combatants. Something new. 10 minutes later, fold space rippled. Ships emerged. Many ships. The Aurelian fleet had arrived. A face appeared on the main screen. Female, tall, severe. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed with controlled fury. I am Fleet Commander Siren of the Aurelian Accord, she said. Her voice carried the cold precision of someone accustomed to absolute authority. Lieutenant Brennan released Commander Kalor immediately. Cass stood her ground. He's not my prisoner. He's under my protection. Protection. Siren's expression darkened. Commander Kalor has been compromised by enemy contact. Standard protocol requires immediate extraction and quarantine, possibly elimination. Beside Cass, Vreth stiffened. You'd kill your own officer, Cass said slowly, because he survived contact with humans. I would eliminate a security risk, which you have created. Sirene's eyes were hard. You have 30 seconds to comply before I authorize orbital bombardment of your position. The mercenary ships began pulling back. They hadn't expected this, hadn't calculated an Aurelian fleet that might fire on its own. Cass felt Declan's voice in her memory. Mercy without strength is surrender. You need both. She looked directly into the camera, not at Siren, at everyone watching, at the galaxy that had spent decades fearing humanity. Commander Siren, she said clearly, fire if you must, but understand what you'll prove. Not that humans are dangerous, that you are, that your fear is stronger than your honor, that calculation matters more than conscience. She stood straighter, a young woman in blood-stained armor refusing to bow. I saved a life today, the life of someone who helped kill my father. I did it because my father taught me we're better than what fear demands, better than hate, better than what the galaxy assumes we must be. Her voice carried across every channel. If you fire, you prove that wrong, and the whole galaxy will see it. Silence. Profound, absolute. Then another ship emerged from fold space. Larger, marked with symbols Cass didn't recognize. This is Ambassador KL of the Ascendancy Coalition. A new voice said, neither male nor female. Something between. We have been monitoring this situation. All parties will stand down immediately. This is not coalition jurisdiction, Siren snapped. It became our jurisdiction when you broadcast it to 40 systems, KL replied calmly. You wanted witnesses, Lieutenant Brennan. You have them, and we will not permit this to escalate into wider conflict. More ships emerged, observers, neutrals, species that had stayed silent during the human-Aurelian War, now drawn by something unprecedented. A human extending mercy, an alien questioning certainty, and the possibility that understanding might exist somewhere between fear and violence. Emergency session, KL declared. Kessler 9 surface. All parties, immediately. We will resolve this through dialogue, not destruction. Sirena's image flickered with barely controlled fury, but she was outnumbered now, outmaneuvered by a human who had turned mercy into leverage. Agreed, she said finally, ice in every syllable. The screens went dark. Cass let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them against her thighs until they steadied. Vreth watched her with something approaching awe. You gambled everything, he said quietly. Yeah. On the hope that my people would choose understanding over protocol. And on the hope that the galaxy was watching. That witness matters. Cass looked at him. Did it work? I do not know yet, but you have done what our model said was impossible. He met her eyes. You made them doubt their certainty about humans. And doubt is a powerful weapon. Outside ships descended through the smoke-stained sky, bringing delegates, bringing observers, bringing the possibility of conversation instead of continuation. Cass activated her comm. Declan, I'm here, kid, I'm here. His voice carried relief and pride in equal measure. That was the craziest, bravest, most reckless thing I've ever seen. Did it work? You started something. Whether it works, a breath. That depends on what happens next. Then I guess we find out together. Your father would be so proud, terrified, but proud. Cass closed her eyes, saw her father's face, heard his voice. Don't become what they think we are. I know, she whispered. Ships landed in the ruined city. Emissaries emerged. The galaxy had come to Kessler 9 drawn by a simple act of mercy that had somehow become something more. Cass stood in the ruins beside an alien who had calculated her family into acceptable losses and waited for the future to arrive. Behind them, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold, the same colors that had blessed Montana 7 on that last morning before everything burned. But this time in this moment, those colors promised not an ending, but a beginning. The conference room in the ruined administrative building had become an impromptu summit hall. Portable generators hummed against the walls, powering lights that cast harsh shadows across faces that had never been meant to meet this way. 4 factions gathered in uneasy proximity, separated by culture and war, and the fragile hope that words might accomplish what weapons had failed to do. Cass stood near the window watching the diplomatic shuttles settle onto makeshift landing pads. Each arrival carried weight, consequence, the possibility of violence barely contained. Fleet Commander Seren arrived first. She moved with the controlled precision of someone who had calculated every step before taking it. Tall, severe, her bioluminescent markings pulsing in patterns that spoke of barely restrained anger. Behind her 2 officers, guards probably, or witnesses, maybe both. The mercenary delegation came next, escorted by Ascendancy security forces. 3 of them disarmed but defiant. Their leader was a scarred alien from a species Cass didn't recognize. 4 arms, compound eyes, expression unreadable. Ambassador Kael descended last. They moved with the unhurried grace of someone accustomed to walking into rooms where everyone else wanted to fight. Non-binary according to the brief Declan had transmitted. A species that existed outside human concepts of gender. Silver skin, 3 eyes arranged in a triangle. Presence that commanded attention without demanding it. Lieutenant Brennan, Cale said. Their voice carried harmonics that the translator rendered as something almost musical. Thank you for your patience. Didn't have much choice, Cass replied. We always have choices. You have demonstrated that quite effectively. Cale's three eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. Shall we begin? They arranged themselves around the salvage table, Sereni on one side rigid and watchful. The mercenaries opposite contained but calculating. Cale at the head, neutral arbiter. Vreth beside Cass, still weak but recovering. And Cass herself, 28 years old, a combat medic who had somehow become the center of a galactic incident. Her comm unit was active. Open channel. Declan listening from whatever distant colony he had reached. His presence a steady anchor in the chaos. Sereni spoke first. This session is unnecessary. Commander Kalor requires immediate medical evaluation and debriefing. The human should be remanded to ascendancy custody for processing. Processing, Cass said quietly. That's an interesting word for it. You assaulted an Aurelian officer. I saved his life. After participating in military actions against Aurelian forces, your medical intervention does not erase your combatant status. Siren's markings flared brighter. You are a soldier, Lieutenant, not a diplomat. This is beyond your authority. Cass met her gaze steadily. I have the authority of doing what's right. That's more than your fleet has shown. Silence dropped like a hammer. Siren leaned forward. You overstep human. Do I? Cass didn't look away. You were about to execute one of your own officers because he survived contact with the enemy, not because he betrayed you, not because he failed, because he lived, and that didn't fit your predictions. Commander Kalor was compromised. Commander Kalor made a choice, same as I did, same as everyone in this room is going to make right now. Cass's voice stayed level, calm. We can keep treating each other as threats, or we can try something different. In her ear, Declan's voice. Quiet, steady. Good. Now pivot. Give them something to move toward, not just away from. Cass took a breath. For decades we've been at war. Humans and Aurelians. Burning colonies, calculating casualties, treating lives like numbers in someone's strategic projection. She looked at each of them in turn. Maybe it's time we projected something else. Peace, cooperation, the possibility that we're stronger working together than killing each other. The mercenary leader laughed, harsh, grating. Noble words from someone who's never had to make hard choices. My father died 6 months ago, Cass said quietly. Orbital bombardment, Montana 7. Commander Kalor here helped plan that strike. She didn't look at Vreth. I've made plenty of hard choices, including the one to save his life anyway. That silenced the room again. Ambassador Kale's three eyes blinked in sequence. A remarkable choice, one that has captured significant attention across multiple systems. 73 species are currently monitoring this session. 73, Proshoy, Siren repeated. Her tone suggested this was a problem. Opportunity, Kale corrected. Lieutenant Brennan has done something unprecedented. She has made humanity unpredictable in ways that prediction cannot account for. That fascinates observers far more than your military capabilities ever did. Fascination is not trust, Siren said. Neither is fear. Yet you have built your entire human strategy on it. Kale turned those three eyes on the Aurelian commander. How has that served you? Sirene's markings pulsed rapid patterns. Anger, frustration, something else underneath. Doubt, maybe. Cass felt the shift. Small, fragile, an opening. Commander Serenaweo, she said carefully, what if I'm not the threat you calculated? What if none of us are? Before Seren could respond, Cass's tactical display chimed. Low, insistent. She glanced down and felt ice form in her chest. Excuse me, she said, pulled out her data pad, accessed the alert. Her field encryption software had been running background scans on all signals in the area. Standard protocol, usually return nothing but static and debris. This time it had found something. Encrypted communication. Mercenary frequencies. Buried in commercial traffic. The software had isolated it, decoded it, laid it out in stark text. Payment confirmed. Target Kalor and human liaison. Contractor or Aurelian Strategic Initiative Group. Authorization code, Theta 77 Delta. Cass read it twice, felt the implications settle like stones in her stomach. Lieutenant, Kale prompted. She looked up, met Vreth's eyes, saw him read something in her expression. In her ear, Declan's voice. Cass, what is it? She made a choice. The mercenaries, she said slowly, they didn't just stumble onto Kessler 9 looking for opportunity. The mercenary leader's compound eyes focused on her. Careful human. They were hired. Cass turned the datapad around, displayed the decrypted message for everyone to see. Hired by someone in the Aurelian command structure, specifically the Strategic Initiative Group. Siren went very still. That's impossible, she said, but her voice carried uncertainty now. The authorization code is right there. Theta 77 Delta. That mean anything to you, Commander? It did. Cass could see it in the way Siren's markings dimmed slightly, the way her eyes shifted to her two officers, the way everything about her posture changed. That is a restricted code, Siren said carefully, used only by senior strategic planners. For what purpose? Kale asked. Classified operations, black funding, assets that cannot appear on official records. Siren looked at the mercenary leader. You were hired to kill Commander Kalor. And the human the mercenary confirmed. Remove both, make it look like battlefield casualties, sever the connection before it could spread. Vreth spoke for the first time. Who authorized it? Don't know names, don't ask. Payment clears, we work. The mercenary's expression might have been a smile. Though I'm thinking that payment isn't coming now. Cass studied Siren, watched calculation happen behind those golden eyes. The commander was reassessing, reframing, trying to fit this new data into existing models. There are elements, Sereni said slowly, within Aurelian command who believe prolonged conflict serves strategic purposes. Military expansion, resource allocation, political influence. They're profiting from the war, Cass said. Profiting is crude. But yes, they have vested interest in continuation rather than resolution. And I threatened that. Cass felt it click into place. Not by being dangerous, by being different, by showing that humans and Aurelians could work together. That scared them more than any weapon. Vreth nodded slowly, because cooperation eliminates the justification for military buildup, for emergency powers, for all the structures they have constructed around perpetual conflict. In her ear, Declan's voice. Kid, you just exposed a conspiracy. That makes you a target, bigger than before. Cass ignored the fear trying to take root, focused on the moment, the people in this room, the choice that needed making. Commander Siren, she said, this evidence implicates your own command structure. What are you going to do about it? Siren was silent. Her officers watched her carefully, waiting for direction. Truth first, Cass pressed. Always. That's what my mentor taught me. You can bury this, claim it's human fabrication, maintain the status quo and hope it holds. She met Siren's eyes. Or you can choose something different. The moment stretched, fragile, balanced on the edge of possibility. Then Siren straightened. Ambassador Kyle, I formally request ascendancy assistance in investigating corruption within Aurelian Strategic Command. This evidence will be transmitted to the High Council with full disclosure. Cass felt something loosen in her chest. Not victory, not yet, but movement, progress. Wise choice, Kikel said. Then to Cass, you have a talent for forcing difficult decisions. Lieutenant, just asking people to be better than their fears. A simple request, impossibly hard to fulfill. Kale's three eyes blinked in sequence again, which is precisely why it works. The meeting adjourned an hour later. Temporary peace, fragile alliances, and investigations to be launched. But movement, forward instead of circular. Cass stepped outside into Kessler 9's twilight. The sky was darkening, stars emerging through the smoke that still drifted from distant fires. She activated her comm. Declan? Right here, kid. That was... He paused. Your father would have been proud. And terrified. Mostly proud. I exposed a conspiracy, made enemies of people who already wanted me dead. You also made Allies of people who thought you were savages. That's the trade. A breath. Cass, you need to understand something. You just changed the game. The rules don't apply anymore. That makes you dangerous to anyone invested in the old system. I know. Do you? Because dangerous means targeted, means they'll come for you. And next time it won't be mercenaries making noise. It'll be professionals making silence. Cass looked at the stars. Then I better make sure I'm not alone. You're not. You know that. I know. Movement behind her. Cass turned hand-dropping to her sidearm, relaxed when she saw Vreth emerging from the building. You should rest, she said. So should you. He moved carefully, still weak. May I speak with you? They walked through the ruins together. Quiet, companionable in the way people become when they've survived something together. You saved my life twice today, Vreth said finally. Once from injury, once from execution. Just doing what needed doing. No, you made choices, deliberate, costly. He stopped, turned to face her. Why truly? Not the answer you gave the others, the real reason. Cass was quiet for a moment, searching for truth in the tangle of motivation and instinct. My father used to say that every war ends eventually, she said slowly. The question is what we become by the time it does. Whether we're still recognizable, still worthy of the peace we claim to be fighting for. She met Vreth's golden eyes. I didn't want to become someone my father wouldn't recognize, someone my little brother would be afraid of. You have a brother, Tyler. He's 11 now. He was 7 when Montana 7 happened. When you happened. No accusation in her voice. Just fact. He has nightmares. Wakes up screaming about ships in the sky. My mother sends me updates, tells me he's getting better, but I can hear it in her voice. The worry, the damage that won't heal. Vreth's markings dimmed. I am sorry for what it is worth. It's worth something. More than I expected, honestly. Cass looked at the ruined city around them. My brother asked my mother once if all aliens were bad, if they all wanted to hurt us. She didn't know what to tell him. What would you tell him? I'd tell him about you, about how you closed your eyes waiting to die and opened them to find mercy instead. About how you warned me about the beacon, even though silence would have been safer. Cass smiled slightly. I'd tell him that aliens aren't villains. They're just people. Scared people, calculating people, but people. Will he believe you? I don't know, but I'm going to give him the evidence to decide for himself. She gestured at the stars. That's what we're building here, evidence. Proof that understanding is possible. They walked on. The ruins gave way to the edge of the city where landing pads sprawled empty under the darkening sky. Then proximity alarms screamed. Cass's tactical display lit up with warnings. Multiple contacts, fast approach, no identification signals. Down. She grabbed Vreth, pulled him behind a concrete barrier. Energy fire lanced through the space they'd occupied a second before. Superheated air crackled. Stone exploded into fragments. Cass drew her sidearm, counted muzzle flashes. At least 6 shooters, professional spacing, coordinated fire. Exactly what Declan had warned about. Stay low, she told Vreth. Activated her comm. All stations, this is Brennan. Under fire at grid 47 Delta. Multiple hostiles, professional tactics. Sereni's voice came back immediately. Confirmed, dispatching security teams. More fire. Closer now. They were advancing. Cass returned fire, 2 quick shots that forced one attacker to cover. Bought seconds. Cass, Declan's voice urgent. Talk to me. Assassination attempt. At least 6 hostiles, probably Aurelian. Your position was in exposed. Limited cover. 30 seconds until they flank us. Then don't be there in 30 seconds. Right, move, adapt, survive. Cass spotted a collapsed structure 20 meters away. Better cover, defensible approaches. Vreth, can you run? I can try. Good enough. On 3. 1, 2. She laid down, suppressing fire. Vreth moved faster than she expected. They sprinted across open ground while energy bolts screamed past. Cass felt heat graze her shoulder, too close. Then they were behind the new cover, breathing hard. Vreth checked her shoulder. You're hit. Grazed. I'm fine. Cass reloaded. Who are they? Hardliners. Elements loyal to the Strategic Initiative Group. Vreth's expression was grim. They move faster than I expected. Faster than investigation could expose them. Cass processed tactical options. 6 shooters, limited ammunition, help coming, but not fast enough. We need to thin their numbers. She studied the approach. The attackers were advancing in standard formation. Textbook. Predictable. Humans didn't fight textbook. Cass grabbed a chunk of rubble, tossed it left. It clattered against metal. 3 shooters redirected fire that direction. She broke right, came up shooting, caught one attacker exposed. He went down. 5. Return fire forced her back to cover. Energy bolts chewed concrete into vapor. Vreth was trying to help weaponless, but spotting targets calling positions. Then new fire erupted from their flank. Cass's heart sank until she saw the distinctive armor patterns. Serena's security forces. Finally, the attackers were caught between 2 fires. Professional to the end, they retreated in good order, disappeared into the ruins. 3 down, 3 escaped. Cass sagged against the wall, adrenaline bleeding out of her system. Her hands were shaking. She made them stop. Siren arrived moments later, weapon drawn, scanning for threats. Her eyes found Cass, assessed, moved to Vreth. Status, she demanded. Alive, Cass managed. Thanks to your people. Thanks to your warning. Siren's expression was difficult to read. You saved Commander Kalor again. He warned me first. We're even. Siren was silent for a moment. Then carefully. I misjudged you, Lieutenant Brennan. Most people do. No, I mean I calculated you as a threat when you are actually something more disruptive. Siren's markings pulsed slowly. You are an example. Evidence that our assumptions about humans are incorrect. That makes you more dangerous than any weapon. I'll take that as a compliment. You should. Siren holstered her weapon. The attackers were Aurelian, my people. That brings me shame. They weren't your people. They were the system's people. The one that profits from war. Cass met her eyes. You chose different. That counts. Something shifted in Siren's expression. Respect maybe, or the beginning of it. Come, she said. Medical teams are waiting, and we need to discuss security arrangements. The hardliners will try again. They made it back to the administrative building. Medics treated Cass's shoulder burn, while Declan's voice provided running commentary in her ear. That's twice in one day someone's tried to kill you, he said. I'm counting. Maybe try not being a revolutionary for 5 minutes. Where's the fun in that? The fun is in staying alive, kid. Cass smiled despite everything. Everything. I'll work on it. An hour later, cleaned and bandaged, Cass found herself in another meeting. Smaller this time. Just Kyle, Sereni, and Vreth. The important people. The ones who could make decisions that mattered. The assassination attempt proved something, Kale said. There are powerful forces invested in continuing conflict. Forces threatened by cooperation. Then we give them something more threatening, Cass said. All eyes turned to her. Lieutenant, Kale prompted. Cass stood, began pacing, thinking aloud the way she did when pieces were assembling in her mind. We've been reactive, responding to threats, defending positions. But defense is just slow motion losing. She looked at them. What if we go on offense, not military, strategic? Explain, Seren said. Joint operations, human or Aurelian cooperation on something everyone can see, something that proves we're stronger together than apart. Cass felt it crystallizing. Humanitarian corps, disaster relief, rescue operations, piracy suppression, all the things both our peoples need but can't do alone because we're too busy fighting each other. Vreth leaned forward. You propose we build trust through cooperation on non-military objectives. I propose we prove the war is costing us more than peace would. That cooperation isn't weakness. It's strength we've been too afraid to use. Siren was quiet, processing. The political challenges would be significant. Everything worth doing is. Cass met her gaze. But you've got evidence of corruption now. Proof that elements of your own command profit from prolonged conflict. Use that. Force accountability. Show your people that peace serves them better than the generals who send them to die. And you believe humans would cooperate. I can't speak for all humans, but I know a lot of them are tired of fighting, tired of losing people they love, tired of being villains in someone else's calculation. Cass thought of Tyler, of her mother, of all the families broken by war. Give them something better to build toward, they'll build. Kale's three eyes blinked rapidly. A bold proposal. It would require significant diplomatic coordination. Then coordinate. Cass heard the urgency in her own voice, the desperation under the confidence. Or keep treating each other as threats until there's nothing left to save. Your choice. Silence. The kind that comes before decisions that change everything. Then Ambassador Kael stood. I will bring this before the Ascendancy Council. We can provide neutral oversight, resources, political cover for those brave enough to try. Sreni rose slowly. I will present the proposal to the Aurelian High Council with full disclosure of the corruption investigation. They need to understand what we risk by continuing the current path. Vreth nodded. And I will advocate within strategic command. Those officers who choose honor over profit. They exist. They need leadership. All eyes turned to Cass. And you, Lieutenant, Kale asked, what will you do? Before Cass could answer, alarms screamed again. Not proximity, long-range sensors, something bigger. The display activated, showed a star system dozens of light years away, Aurelian space. The homeworld itself, Oriole Prime, under attack, massive fleet, unknown designation. But the tactics were clear. Bombardment, invasion, conquest. Sireni's markings flared bright. That's impossible. Our home defenses are failing. Vreth studied the data streaming in. Crovar Dominion. They've been waiting for this, waiting for us to be divided, distracted. An emergency transmission cut through. Elderly Aurelian, council robes, fear poorly contained. This is Elder Kane of the High Council. We are under attack and defense is compromised. Civilian casualties mounting. A pause, his voice cracked slightly. We request assistance from all allied species, including humanity. Vreth went rigid. My father, he whispered. The transmission continued. My son Vreth, if you can hear this, I was wrong. About humans, about the choices I supported. If we survive this, we will speak. I promise you that. The transmission cut out. Cass felt the room hold its breath, waiting. She activated her comm. Declan? I heard, kid, I heard. His voice was rough. They're asking for help. The same people who burned Montana 7. What are you going to do? Cass looked at the display, at the world burning light years away, at the people dying because someone had calculated them as acceptable casualties in a larger strategy. She thought about her father, about Tyler's nightmares, about every choice that had led her to this moment. Then she made another one. We go, she said simply. Sereni stared at her. You would help us after everything. Not because you asked, not because you deserve it. Cass met her eyes. Because it's right. Because that's what cooperation means. You help when help is needed, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You cannot authorize military action, Siren said. You lack authority. Then I'll ask for volunteers. Humans who choose to help because it's the right thing to do, not orders, choice. Cass turned to Kyle. Can you coordinate? Yes, but Lieutenant, this is extraordinary risk. You would be placing yourself in the heart of Aurelian space, among people who fear and hate humans. They'll fear us less after we help them. Cass activated her tactical display, began plotting routes. Declan, I need you. I'm already packing, his voice came back. And kid, I'm coming in person this time. You need boots on the ground, not just comm support. Warmth flooded through her. Thanks. Thank me when we survive this. Assuming we do. Over the next hour, impossible things became real. Volunteers assembled. Human ships from 3 colonies. Aurelian vessels whose captains chose cooperation over protocol. Neutral observers who recognized this moment for what it was. A test. Not of weapons. Of will. Cass stood on the landing pad watching ships prepare for departure. The mixed fleet that should never have existed. That existed anyway because people had chosen something different. Vreth approached, still weak but determined. "You don't have to come," Cass said. "Yes, I do." He stood beside her. "My world burns. My people die. My father reaches out after years of silence. I cannot stand aside, even if my strength is limited." "Then stand with us. We'll be your strength." Cyrene arrived, armor-gleaming command staff behind her. She stopped in front of Cass. For a moment, the two women simply looked at each other. Human and Aurelian, enemy and ally, past and future. "I do not understand humans," Cyrene said quietly. "I'm counting on that," Cass replied. "But I am beginning to." Cyrene extended her hand, palm open, the Aurelian gesture of alliance. "Thank you, Lieutenant Brennan, for choosing mercy when vengeance would have been easier, for choosing cooperation when calculation suggested otherwise." Cass took her hand. "Thank you for choosing to see us differently. We will speak more when this is over. About the future, about cooperation." Cyrene's markings pulsed steadily. "If we survive." "When we survive," Cass corrected. "I'm an optimist that way." The fleet launched an hour later. 37 ships, mixed crews, impossible coordination that worked anyway because the alternative was watching a world burn. Cass sat in the command chair of a human transport retrofitted with Aurelian shield generators. Beside her, Declan, finally present, finally real instead of a voice in her ear. He looked older than she remembered, silver hair thinner, lines deeper, but his eyes were the same, steady, certain, present. 58 years old, too old to be charging into battle, too stubborn to stay behind. "Kid," he said, "Declan, we're about to fly into the heart of Aurelian space to save people who killed your father." "I know. And you're okay with that?" Cass thought about it, really thought. "No, but I'm doing it anyway. That's what being better than fear means." Declan was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, rare, genuine. "Your father would have said exactly that." "You think he'd approve?" "I think he's watching, wherever he is, and I think he's proud as hell." The fleet entered fold space, reality bent, stars stretched, and Lieutenant Cassandra Brennan, 28 years old combat medic and accidental revolutionary, led an impossible alliance toward an uncertain future. Behind her, Kessler 9 receded into memory. Ahead, Oriole Prime burned. And somewhere between past and future, mercy and justice, fear and hope, a new galaxy was being born. One choice at a time. Fold space was neither dark nor light. It existed somewhere between states, a shimmer of probability where reality bent around the edges of human comprehension. Cass had traveled through it dozens of times. It never stopped feeling wrong. She stood on the bridge of the transport, watching stars that weren't quite stars slide past the viewport. Beside her, Declan studied tactical displays with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent 40 years turning bad situations into survivable ones. "Fleet composition is holding it," he said. 17 human vessels, 12 Aurelian, 8 neutral observers who insist they're just watching but brought weapons anyway. 37 ships against a Crovar armada. Cass pulled up the enemy force projection. "We're outgunned by a factor of 20. Wouldn't be interesting otherwise." Declan glanced at her. "You have a plan, working on it. Work faster. We drop out of fold space in 6 hours." Cass turned away from the viewport, met his eyes, really looked at him for the first time since he had arrived on Kessler 9. The silver hair had gone white at the temples. New lines creased his face deep enough to suggest they'd been carved there by more than just time. He moved with the careful economy of someone whose body had started sending warning signals about limits. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. "Where else would I be? Safe, far from this, letting someone younger handle the impossible odds." Declan smiled. It transformed his face, made the years fall away until she could see the young soldier who'd served with her father decades ago. "Your father and I made a pact once, long time ago, different war. We promised if either of us didn't make it home, the other would watch over family left behind." "I know." "No, you don't. Not the whole thing." He moved to the viewport, looked out at the impossible space between stars. We promised we'd make sure those who came after us were better than we were, that they'd have the chance to choose something different than violence and revenge. Cass felt something tighten in her chest. Marcus died making sure civilians escaped, Declan continued. He chose protection over survival. That was his better. He turned met her eyes. You chose mercy over vengeance, understanding over hate. Kid, you're already everything we hoped the next generation would be. I'm scared, Declan. All the time. Good. Fear means you're paying attention. Means you understand the stakes. He put a hand on her shoulder. But you don't let it choose for you. That's what makes you dangerous, and why I wouldn't miss this for anything. A chime interrupted. Incoming transmission. Priority channel. Vreth's face appeared on the display. He was on one of the Aurelian vessels, still recovering, but insisting on being part of the operation. Lieutenant Brennan, we have preliminary intelligence from Oriole Prime. Let's see it. The tactical display updated. Oriole Prime materialized in holographic detail. A beautiful world wrapped in crystalline cities that caught starlight and transformed it into something ethereal. Or it had been. Now fires burned across 3 continents. Orbital platforms listed dead in space. The planetary shield flickered, weakening with each successive bombardment. The Krovar fleet surrounded it like a closing fist. 63 heavy cruisers, hundreds of support craft. Weapons that could crack a planet's crust if given time. Casualty estimates, Cass asked. 7 million already, projected to reach 20 million within 48 hours if the shield fails. Vreth's voice was controlled, but she could hear the strain underneath. My family is in the capital. My sister teaches at the university. Her children, he stopped. Started again. We must succeed. We will. Cass studied the formation. Their deployment is textbook. Maximum coverage, minimal gaps. Very efficient. Also very rigid, Declan observed. They're not expecting resistance, certainly not from a mixed fleet of human and Aurelian ships. Then let's give them something unexpected. Cass began highlighting sections of the enemy formation. We don't have the firepower to win a direct engagement, so we don't engage directly. Elaborate, Vreth said. The Krovar are calculating. They plan, execute, adapt within parameters. Very similar to how Aurelians fight actually. She glanced at Vreth. Humans don't. You fight chaotically. We improvise creatively. There's a difference. Cass pulled up fleet compositions. We've got civilian ships that shouldn't be here. Mining vessels, cargo haulers, transports with shields but no weapons. In any normal engagement, they'd be liabilities. And in an abnormal engagement, Declan asked, already seeing where she was going. They're assets, sensors, decoys, disruption. Her hands moved across the display, assembling pieces of a plan that shouldn't work. Aurelian vessels provide precision targeting. Human ships provide chaos and unpredictability. We don't fight them ship to ship. We fight them by making their calculations meaningless. Vreth studied the emerging strategy. This requires coordination across species who have never operated together. Good thing we've got 6 hours to practice. They drilled relentlessly, running scenarios, testing communication protocols, learning how human improvisation could mesh with Aurelian precision without one destroying the other's effectiveness. It was messy, frustrating, brilliant in unexpected ways. Cass moved between ships via shuttle meeting crews face to face. Human engineers who'd volunteered knowing they might not come home. Aurelian tactical officers who'd chosen cooperation over protocol. Neutral observers who'd stopped pretending they were just watching. On a mining vessel called the Starhammer, she met Captain Rodriguez. Weathered face, calloused hands, eyes that had seen asteroid fields and worse. My ship's got no weapons, Lieutenant, just industrial lasers for cutting rock. How much power can you push through them? Enough to slice a 100-meter asteroid in half. Why, Mel? Because Krovar shields are designed to stop weapons. Bet they're not optimized for high-intensity industrial equipment operating at unexpected frequencies. Rodriguez grinned. I like how you think. On the Aurelian cruiser, Radiant Dawn Commander Sireni reviewed attack patterns with her officers. She'd transferred her flag to join the fleet personally. Another impossible thing that kept happening. Your strategy relies heavily on improvisation, she said to Cass. That troubles me. Improvisation introduces variables. Variables win battles that calculations say you'll lose. Or they create chaos that destroys coordination. Cass met her eyes. Commander has perfect planning saved Oriole Prime. Siren was silent. Then maybe it's time to try imperfect action, Cass said. Trust that chaos in our hands is better than precision in theirs. You ask much. I ask for what I give. Trust. And the willingness to try something different because the alternative is watching people die. Siren studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, Lieutenant. We will follow your lead into chaos if that is what is required. Not chaos, jazz. I do not understand. You will. The fleet dropped out of fold space on the edge of the Oriole Prime system. Reality snapped back into normal parameters. Sensors immediately screamed warnings. The Crovar Armada was larger than intelligence had suggested. 78 heavy cruisers, enough firepower to sterilize a world twice over. On the surface, Oriole Prime's shield flickered, weakening, dying. They've detected us, Vreth reported. Crovar fleet is redeploying. 20 vessels breaking formation to intercept. Gooding, Cass said. Let them come. That's 20 against 37. Not favorable odds. Depends on how you count. Cass activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Brennan. Execute pattern Delta. Let's show them what cooperation looks like. The human vessels scattered. Not retreat. Deliberate dispersion. They spread across three-dimensional space in patterns that looked random, but weren't. Each ship became a node in a sensor network triangulating data and feeding it to Aurelian targeting systems. The Crovar ships advanced in perfect formation. Weapons charging, confident. The mining vessels opened up with their industrial lasers. Not military weapons, just tools designed to cut rock, now cutting through shields that weren't calibrated to stop them. Crovar ships staggered, shields flickering. Aurelian cruisers fired into the gaps with surgical precision. Perfect timing, perfect targeting. Enabled by human chaos that created the opportunities. 3 Crovar ships listed engines damaged. 2 more broke formation disoriented. They're adapting, Declan called, redirecting power to compensate. Then we adapt faster. Cass switch with frequencies. Civilian transports execute scatter pattern gamma, make them chase you. The transports worthless in a gunfight suddenly became the most valuable assets in the fleet. They scattered in different directions, forcing the Crovar to split their attention, dilute their firepower, break the formations that gave them strength. This is insanity, Siren said, but her tone carried something else. Respect, amazement. This is jazz, Cass replied. Improvisation around a theme. The theme is survive and protect. The engagement lasted 40 minutes. When it ended, 12 Crovar vessels were disabled or destroyed. The rest retreated to the main fleet. The Allied force had lost 1 ship, a human cargo hauler that had used its bulk to shield an Aurelian cruiser from a killing shot. 17 crew. They'd known the risk, chosen it anyway. Cass felt each loss like a knife. But there was no time to grieve. The main Crovar fleet was repositioning, and on the surface, Oriole Prime's shield was failing. We need to break the siege, Vreth said, but we lack the firepower to engage their main force. Then we don't break it with firepower. Cass studied the Crovar deployment, saw the pattern, the calculation. Declan, what's the Crovar fleet's primary objective? Planetary conquest. They want Oriole Prime intact enough to be useful. So they're holding back their heaviest weapons, using precision bombardment instead of planet crackers. Cass felt pieces clicking together. They're calculating acceptable damage ratios, efficient conquest. And if we make it inefficient, Declan asked, if we make every shot they take a risk, every advancement costly, every calculation suspect, Cass looked at him. They'll reassess, maybe even withdraw. How do you make an armada reassess? By showing them what they're really fighting. Cass activated maximum broadcast range, not just to the fleet, to everyone. Every ship, every system, every observer who'd been watching this impossible alliance. This is Lieutenant Cassandra Brennan, she said. Her voice carried across space. 6 hours ago, natural enemies became allies. Humans and Aurelians, species that calculated each other as threats, chose cooperation instead. We're here because Oriole Prime asked for help. Not because we're allies, not because we owe them, but because it's right. She paused. Let that settle. Crovar Dominion. You're fighting an alliance you don't understand. Ships whose crews shouldn't trust each other, working together anyway. You're calculating firepower and formation. We're calculating something you've never factored. The strength of choosing to be better than fear. On the Crovar command ship, she imagined confusion, recalculation, uncertainty. Withdraw now, Cass continued. Before you learn what happens when humans and Aurelians stop asking permission to defend what matters. The response came quickly. The Crovar fleet commander, a four-armed alien with compound eyes that glittered with cold intelligence. Impressive words, human. But words do not stop weapons. No, but this does. Cass gave the signal. The entire Allied fleet activated every sensor, every communication array, every system capable of generating electromagnetic signature. Suddenly, 37 ships registered as 300, a phantom armada impossible to distinguish from real vessels until weapons fire revealed which were genuine. The Crovar hesitated, visible even across thousands of kilometers. That moment of uncertainty. Withdraw, Cass repeated, or find out which targets are real. Your choice. But choose fast. Because Oriole Prime's shield is failing, and if you think we'll let you massacre civilians, you've miscalculated badly. The Crovar commander studied the sensor data, ran calculations, assessed, then made a choice Cass hadn't expected. Planet Killer deployment authorized, the commander said. Target Oriole Prime capital. Detonation in 12 minutes. The transmission cut. Horror flooded through Cass. She'd gambled and lost. The tactical display updated. A massive vessel previously hidden in the Crovar rear formation began powering up. Energy signatures spiked. This wasn't a conventional weapon. This was something designed to crack tectonic plates, to turn atmosphere into fire, to make examples of worlds that resisted. 12 minutes until 20 million people died. Options, Cass demanded. We can't reach it in time, Vreth said, voice tight. It's too deep in their formation, and our weapons can't penetrate its armor before it fires. There has to be something. There is. Declan's voice cut through. Calm. Final. Manual intercept. A ship with enough mass driven directly into the weapon's firing port during charge cycle would disrupt the detonation sequence, cause a catastrophic feedback loop. Cass understood what he wasn't saying. A suicide run? Yeah. No, absolutely not. There's another way. There's always another way. Not this time, kid. Declan was already moving toward the shuttle bay. Damaged Aurelian cruiser in our formation. The Dawn's Edge. Engines still functional, but shields failing. Perfect for a one-way trip. Declan, stop. Cass grabbed his arm. I didn't save Vreth just to lose you. You don't get to do this. He turned, met her eyes, and she saw peace there. Resolution. The kind that came from knowing exactly what needed doing. Your father saved people instead of himself, Declan said quietly. Taught you to choose mercy over vengeance. It's a good legacy, Cass. The best. But someone has to protect the ones who make those choices. Someone has to be willing to make the hard sacrifice so you can keep being better than the war. You don't have to be that someone. Yeah, I do. He smiled. I'm old. I've seen enough, done enough. You've got a future to build, a galaxy to change. Can't do that if you're dead. I can't lose you. Her voice cracked. Not you too. You won't lose me. I'll be right there. He touched his chest, her heart, where your father is, where everyone who chose to be better lives on. Cass felt tears burning. Refused to let them fall. Not yet. There has to be another solution. Then find it in the next 8 minutes, because that's how long until I launch. He headed for the door, stopped, looked back. Your father would be so proud of you, Cass, so damn proud. Make sure Tyler knows that. Make sure your mother knows. Tell them the men who loved them chose well, that their legacy is you. He left. Cass stood frozen. 8 minutes. 8 minutes to solve the impossible. Her mind raced. The Planet Killer was charging. Crovar weapon, but built using stolen technology. stolen from whom records indicated Aurelian components. Advanced targeting systems, power cores that use biological integration. Biological integration. Cass pulled up every file she had on Aurelian technology, the medical scans she'd taken of Vreth, the way their bioluminescent systems interfaced with machinery, organic and synthetic working together. The planet killer used a living power core, Aurelian design, vulnerable to the same harmonic frequencies that could stabilize or destabilize biological systems. Medical knowledge, technical understanding, combined. Vreth Cass activated the comm. The planet killer, it uses Aurelian tech, right? Yes, stolen designs from 20 years ago. Why? The power core, is it organic? Does it use biological resonance? A pause, yes. How did you chaw? Because I'm a medic, and I've been learning how your systems work. Cass's hands flew across the console. When I treated you, I used harmonic frequencies to stabilize your cellular structure. What if we could do the reverse, destabilize the weapon's core? The frequencies required would need to be precisely calibrated and broadcast at military-grade intensity. We lack the equipment. No, we don't. We have Declan. She activated emergency channel. Declan, abort the run. I've got it. Cass, trust me, please. The way I trusted you. Silence, then talk fast. The planet killer uses a biological power core, or Aurelian design, vulnerable to a harmonic disruption. Words tumbling out. You've got military-grade signal amplification on that cruiser. I've got the medical frequencies that can destabilize organic systems. We combine them, broadcast directly at the weapon during charge cycle. We can collapse the core without anyone dying. That's a hell of a theory. It's what I've got. It's better than you dying for certain. Another pause. How sure are you, Tim? 80%. That's 20% chance of total failure. Better than 100% chance you're gone. Cass pulled up the calculations, started transmitting them to his ship. Declan, I lost my father. Tyler lost his dad. We can't lose you too. Let me try to save someone for once. She heard something in the silence. Decision. Choice. All right, kid. Send the frequencies. Let's see if medical knowledge beats military hardware. The next 4 minutes were the longest of Cass's life. She transmitted harmonic patterns. Declan configured the military amplifiers to broadcast them. Vreth provided real-time targeting data. Sereni coordinated fleet positioning to ensure clear signal path. Cooperation, precision, improvisation. Everything they'd learned compressed into one desperate gamble. The planet killer's charge cycle reached critical. Energy signature spiked toward detonation threshold. Frequencies ready, Declan reported. Targeting locked. This better work. It will. Cass made herself believe it. 3, 2, 1, transmit. The signal burst outward. Harmonic frequencies designed to disrupt organic systems, amplified to military intensity, focused directly at the weapon's biological core. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the planet killer's energy signature spiked. Wrong direction. Not building to detonation. Collapsing inward. The organic core destabilizing. Feedback loops cascading. The weapon tearing itself apart from the inside. The massive vessel shuddered. Explosions rippled across its hull. The power core imploded, taking the weapon with it. The Krovar fleet broke. Ships that had calculated easy conquest suddenly faced an enemy that refused to follow any known patterns. That turned medicine into weapons. That cooperated across species boundaries no one thought could be crossed. They retreated, not destroyed, but beaten, confused, uncertain. And in uncertainty, humans had already won. The Allied fleet held position until the last Krovar vessel entered fold space. Then, and only then, did Cass let herself breathe. Status on Oriole Prime, she asked. Shield holding Vreth reported. His voice carried barely contained emotion. Casualties estimated at 9 million. Terrible, but not extinction. Not the end. Declan, still alive and ugly, his voice came back. Though that was closer than I like. Good work, kid. Damn good work. Cass sagged into the command chair. Felt exhaustion hit like a physical weight. but also something else. Lightness, the knowledge that they'd done it, survived, protected. One not through destruction, but through understanding. All ships, she said, stand down from combat status. Begin rescue and relief operations. Let's finish what we started. Let's help them heal. The fleet moved into orbit, human and Aurelian working side by side, providing medical aid, disaster relief, rescue operations, proving that cooperation wasn't just a strategy for battle, but a foundation for peace. 3 days later, Cass stood in the Chamber of Unity on Oriole Prime. The building had survived bombardment through some miracle of engineering or luck. Now it hosted something unprecedented, the Aurelian High Council, in full assembly, with a human standing before them. Elder Kane, silver-haired and ancient, led the session. Vreth's father, she'd learned, a detail that made the moment feel even more impossible. Lieutenant Cassandra Brennan, Kane said. His voice carried the weight of authority and the tremor of recent fear. You came when we called. You saved our world when you had every reason to watch it burn. You have shown us what we should have seen decades ago, that humanity is not the threat we calculated. With respect, Elder Kane, Cass said carefully, we were exactly the threat you calculated. When threatened, we escalate. We improvise. We refuse to lose. She paused. But we're also something more. We choose, and that makes all the difference. Indeed, Kane looked at his fellow council members. We misjudged your species. We planned Montana 7 believing humans were a variable to be eliminated. We were wrong, and for that wrong, we formally apologize. The words hung in the air, heavy, historic, inadequate for the weight they carried. We propose formal alliance, another council member said. Technology exchange, joint defense initiatives, reparations for worlds damaged in conflict. Cass thought carefully before responding. I can't accept on behalf of humanity. I lack authority. Then what do you propose? Let me be a bridge. First human ambassador to Aurelian space. Not to command, not to demand, but to build understanding between our peoples. To prove that cooperation works better than calculation. Kane studied her. And you believe humans would accept this? I know a lot of them are tired of war, tired of losing people they love. Give them something better to build toward, they'll build. Silence. Then Kane nodded. Very well. Lieutenant Cassandra Brennan, we appoint you first human ambassador to the Aurelian Accord. May your service honor both our peoples. Siren stepped forward, and I accept appointment as Aurelian military liaison to human space. We will build this alliance together, with transparency, with trust, with hope, Vreth added quietly, that what we've begun here continues. Afterward, Cass found Declan on an observation deck watching Oriole Prime rotate slowly beneath them. So, he said, Ambassador, that's a hell of a promotion. I tried to decline, they insisted. Of course they did. You changed their world, literally. He smiled. Your father would have laughed. His daughter, the diplomat. He always said you were too stubborn to follow orders properly. Learn from the best. They stood in comfortable silence. Then Cass asked the question that had been building. What happens to you now? Me, I'm old kid, too old for this. He gestured at the fleet, the planet, the impossible achievements surrounding them. I'm going home, back to Montana 7. They're rebuilding. Could use someone who knows how to organize people, how to build instead of destroy. That sounds perfect. Thought you might approve. He turned to face her. But I'll be one calm call away. Always. You need wisdom advice or someone to tell you when you're being reckless. I'm there. Thank you for everything, for being there when I needed you, for trusting me. Your family, Cass. That's what family does. They hugged, long, tight, the embrace of people who'd survived something impossible together. When they separated, Declan's eyes were wet. So were hers. Make them proud, he said. Your father, your mother, Tyler, everyone who believes in you. I will. I know. 1 year later, the memorial garden on Montana 7 had grown. The tree Cass planted for her father and Emma stood 12 feet tall, now green life from scorched earth. Vreth found her there. He'd become Aurelian ambassador to humanity. Their partnership had become the model for every human-alien cooperation initiative. The Assembly voted, he said, formal recognition of the Human-Aurelian Alliance, full economic and military cooperation. It passed unanimously. That's good news. More than good, historic. He stood beside her. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd made a different choice, if you'd killed me that day? Cass thought about it all the time, but then I remember what my father taught me. We don't get to know what might have been, only what we choose to make real. Wise man, your father. The best. Her comm chimed. Tyler's voice came through, older now, steadier. Cass, I wanted to tell you something. I'm listening. I had the dream again, the one about ships in the sky, but this time when I woke up I wasn't scared. A pause. I remembered what you told me about Commander Vreth, about choosing to save someone instead of hurt them. And I thought maybe aliens aren't all bad. Maybe they're just scared too. Cass felt warmth spread through her chest. That's exactly right, Tyler. They're just scared, same as us. I want to study xenobiology, like Emma wanted. I want to understand them, so maybe I can help people not be scared anymore. That sounds perfect. You think Dad would approve? Cass looked at the memorial tree, felt her father's presence like sunlight on her face. Yeah, I think he'd be proud of both of us. After the call ended, Declan walked up from the memorial site where colonists had gathered. A lot of people showed up today, he said, humans and Aurelians both, paying respects to those we lost, celebrating what we built from it. Dad would have liked that. He would have loved it. Declan stood beside her, and he would have been amazed at you, at what you've become. I just made a choice. You made 1,000 choices, each one building on the last, each one choosing to be better. He put a hand on her shoulder. That's what changes galaxies. Not weapons, not calculations, choices, made by people brave enough to trim on. Above them, stars emerged as twilight deepened. The same stars that had witnessed war, that now witnessed something different. Peace built on understanding. Alliance forged from mercy. Cass looked up at them and smiled. Not at what humanity had proven, but at what they'd chosen to become. Not the threat that fear predicted, just people stubborn enough to be better than the war that tried to define them. And in a universe that ran on calculation and certainty, that choice was the most powerful force of all.